Hey guys, I'm going to run through the answers from the Google Classroom quiz. We're all going to retake it this upcoming week. Either I'll post another one. So even if you did well on it, I'm going to have you guys redo it. A couple of reasons. One is I didn't have you guys put your name on it. I'd have to open it back up, have you guys put your name on it, resubmit it. But I told everybody you'd have a second chance anyway, so we'll just redo it. Let me walk through how to do these problems. And again, reach out. If you're confused on something, send me an email, send me a remind, and I can give you a hand, all right? So going through the quiz question by question. On question one says, what quadratic is the widest when graphed? But when we talk in our notes, A represents a couple things, whether it opens up or down, and how wide it is. The closer it is to 0, the wider it is. So I'm looking for the smallest number, not positive or negative. That just tells me if it opens up or down. So basically the absolute value, the one that's closest to 0, and that's going to be this guy right here, B, would be the correct answer for that. Find the axis of symmetry. All right, now axis of symmetry, we know that our axis of symmetry is going to be the value, it's x, it's the x, it's that vertical line. So when we graph it, wherever it is, it's going to be a dotted line straight up and down. That's an x equals line. It's the opposite of b over 2a. This was y equals 2x squared minus 8x plus 3. So I just plug this in, so the opposite of negative 8 would be 8 over 2 times 2, which is 4. So therefore x equals 2 would be the correct answer for that guy. All right, so again, just kind of graphing that, or get started if I were graphing, I'd go to x is 2. I know I'm going to have a dotted line through here. Now, if I want to find the vertex, I just take this 2 and plug it in for x, which is going to be a different question on the quiz, and then find out what my y value is. But it's going to be on that line somewhere. All right, so now here we go. Find the vertex for the quadratic. So the quadratic, we see y equals 4x squared minus 24x plus 1, which, by the way, when I went in to look at your scores, a lot of you guys had this correct. They just marked it wrong because you either didn't put it in with the parentheses, or a space was missing or something like that, but you might have had this one right and it marked it wrong. So if I want to find the vertex, I do the same thing. I find my x value first, which is the axis of symmetry. X equals the opposite of b over 2a. That's going to become positive 24 over 2 times 4, which is 8. So this guy is 3. Just do a quick double check, opposite that over that, okay? Now let's take 3 and plug it in. So to find the vertex, y is going to equal 4. Now when I plug this in, I'm going to show you on the calculator what I do, just to make my life easier. All right, I could do this mentally. Notice where I put that square on the outside, because if there's a negative, that really matters. Let me find my calculator here. So on a calculator, I just let this guy do the work for me. I just type in 4 parentheses, 3, close them, squared. Notice I put those on the outside, minus 24 times 3 plus 1. Hit enter, and there we go, negative 35. So the vertex of this was 3 comma negative 35. All right, once again, you don't need a graphing calculator to do that. You could type it in on any calculator. It will know how to do it properly as long as it's scientific. All right, going down to the next question. Which quadratic when graph will be opening upward? As simple as positive a. That's it. All right, 5 is positive, that's going downward. What is the equation in terms of a, b, and c that finds the axis of symmetry? That just is x equals the opposite of b over 2a, right? It's this guy right here, the opposite of b over 2a. And I know I told you guys to forget that guy on the quiz. All right, which of the table of values matches the quadratics? You just got to plug in and see which one works. Just be careful when you plug in a negative value. I'm trying to go from memory. So since these guys are the same, here, here, and here, I'm not going to check those. I just got to check one of these ordered pairs to see which one it is. So let's plug negative 2 into here and see what happens. Now be careful. The quadratic, I'm going to write it down next to the, so we can see it's y equals the opposite of x squared plus 4x minus 5. So when I type this in on the calculator, all right, that negative sign is important. That's like a negative 1, but I could put the negative, parenthesis, now what am I plugging in here? Negative 2, right? Negative 2, close parentheses, square that guy. So there we go. It's the opposite of x squared plus 4 times -2 and then -5. Hit enter and I get -17. So therefore when I plug in -2, I get -17. My correct answer is A for that guy. All right, so the vertical motion model always seems to be a little bit of an issue when we get started. Our vertical, let's see, a ball is tossed into the air with an initial velocity going upward of 120 feet per second from an initial height of 8 feet. Okay, which one is the correct model? Our general model for any vertical motion is h equals -16t squared plus vt plus s or c. I forget exactly. Some books use s, some use c. H is our ending height. -16 is the force of gravity in feet per second. T is time in seconds. Initial velocity, time, initial height. So I just plug in. It's an upward initial velocity of 120. That's going to go in here. And our initial height was 8. So this guy's 120, this guy's 8. So h is going to equal -16t squared plus 120t plus 8. That would be our answer to that guy, which looked like we had letter B. Okay, would be the right answer there. And from there, okay, which you're going to end up, I think the next question or so as we move through, it asks to find like what is the max height. That's just the vertex. Anytime you see max or min, we're thinking vertex, opposite of B over 2A. All right, question 8. Now we're told to find solutions now by taking square roots. In this technique, there's no B. Notice B is gone. So therefore, there's no x term. When there's no x term, we can just solve this using simple algebra. So I'm going to write down the problem. 5x squared minus 125 equals 0. And now I just solve that guy. Let's get the x squared by itself. 5x squared equals 125. Divide by 5, divide by 5. X is going to equal 25. And then I go ahead and I take the square, x squared equals 25. I take the square root of both sides. Remember, anytime we introduce a square root symbol, you have to account for the positive root or the negative root, okay? Because we put that in there, because 5 times 5 is 25, or -5 times -5. So that would be your correct answer there. It ended up being not B, all right, but D in that case. Kind of a tricky answer selection. Solve by taking the square root. This one wasn't as nice to work out because we end up with a non-perfect square when we were done, but that's okay. As long as it's not negative, we can find an answer. So if I go ahead and solve this guy, I'm going to get -3x squared is going to equal, so when I subtract that, I get -26 when I subtract 39 from both sides. Now I divide both sides by -3. So x squared is going to be equal to 26 over 3, or 26 thirds. So I just leave it that way, and then I take the square root. And remember, if we introduce the square root, we have to account for the positive or negative root. Okay, so that would be the answer to that guy there, which ended up being letter C. Question 10. Now we actually got to find a ball, a certain point. So it's the same equation we started with earlier. A ball is tossed up in the air with initial height of 120 feet per second from initial height of 8 feet. How long will it take for the ball to get to its maximum height? So just kind of sketching this out without just getting an idea what this looks like. This is my time. This is my height. And if we're going to start like 8 feet, we'd be about here. As time goes on, the ball is going to go up. It's going to get to its max height and then come back down again. And we're trying to figure this out. And think about that. The max height, there's my opposite of B over 2A. That's my dotted line. And then I want to plug that in and figure out what the height is. So H equals -16t squared plus 120t and plus 8. So let's find the vertex, the opposite of B over 2A. So x is going to equal -120 over 2 times -16 is -32. I go to the calculator, 120 divided by 32, negative divided by negative positive, and I get 3.75. And that's in seconds. So in this sketch right here, this would be 3.75 seconds, which ended up in our answer there being letter A. And then, all right, now we switched the problem, and we want to find the max height if the ball is kicked. All right, gives us the initial velocity from initial height. So we got to find x first. Opposite b over 2a, just plug that in. So let's write our formula. H is going to equal negative 16t squared plus 80t, because this had an initial upward velocity of 80 from an initial height of 3. And now I do the opposite of b over 2a. That's going to be the time it takes to get to the max height, negative 80 over negative 32. So I get my calculator out, 80 divided by 32, positive 2.5. So it's going to take 2.5 seconds. Now let's take 2.5 and plug it back in and see what the actual height is. So I just go to my calculator, negative 16 times 2.5, close them squared, plus 80 times 2.5, plus 3, and 103 feet. H equals 103 feet. And if I look at my answer there, it was letter A as well. And last question, I believe 12. Which solution has graphed correct? Okay, as A or B graphed correctly. So as I look at this, I can really, if I just find the vertex, it's going to tell me which one's right, which one's wrong, because the vertex are different. Looks like the opposite of B over 2A is the same. Okay, but when they plugged it in, they either got, when they plugged in 2, they got 7. When they plugged in 2, they got negative 1. So if I just did a quick check, the opposite of B over 2A is going to be negative 4 over negative 2, which does equal 2. My x value is 2. Let's plug 2 in. So I just go to the calculator and I type in, remember this was the opposite of x squared. So it's the opposite parenthesis of 2, close them squared, plus 4 times 2. And I could do some of this mental math if I wanted to, but I'm just going to type it in, hit enter, and I get negative 1. So if I look at my graph here, I do see that the second one has a vertex of 2, negative 1. It is opening downward, so that makes sense. My intercept is, remember this guy's your y-intercept, negative 5, which is down there. So without doing much, if one of these two has to be right, that looks like it is it. All right. So again, what I'm going to do is I'll probably make something very similar to this. Bear with me with this stuff. I'm using some of this software for the first time as well. So if it works out, great. If it doesn't, we'll just deal with it. All right. So I'm going to put a video together tomorrow for our 9-4 notes. I'm going to upload this guy now, and like I said, I'll contact you guys via email, and we'll all retake a quiz, and then I'll put that grade in for you. All right. Take care.